Bonaduce, life coach. Danny Bonaduce, life.
That's right. It's Danny Bonaduce, life coach. Rick Jones, I can see you dancing out of the corner of my eye. You should give us a call right now. Rick Jones is here, from 1-800-DIVORCE, Goldberg Jones. He's going to take your calls right now, so why not give a call, 1-800-252-1025. And by the way, Life Coach is brought to you by Goldberg Jones Divorce for Men. Call 1-800-DIVORCE. Let's go to Jason in Seattle. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, all.
What's up, buddy?
So, check it out. I'll try to keep this in a nutshell as best I can, understanding we're on the radio.
I appreciate that.
All right, so, paying some back child support. Stepping back into the original thing, when we first did our divorces, I have 3 kids with her. We were young. We didn't hire lawyers. We just did our support. There was daycare involved. So, for example, I paid $831 a month.
Yikes.
300 of that was for daycare. $531 was for child support. Makes sense?
Yeah, I don't know, Rick. You got this?
I'm following.
You're the expert, dude.
So, where I'm at is, when I went to Iraq, came back, got a little messed up. I wasn't paying my child support. I got my life back on track. I'm paying back support. They send me a note saying I still owe $29,000. I'm trying to do the math, and I'm like, no way. Well, then I realized, wait a minute. My kids weren't in daycare when they were in 10th grade, when they were in 11th grade, all the way back to 7th grade probably.
Right.
And besides, my ex-wife owned a daycare center, her own daycare. So the chances of them being in a daycare and me paying $300 is what is my legal right to fight for that $300 every month that I'm supposed to be paying on that I really shouldn't have been?
Jason, before Rick Jones answers, I would just like to say one thing. I hate your ex-wife. Now, over to you there, Rick.
Jason, the 2 things come to mind. First of all, you can request what's called an accounting from the state. And what that means is they're required to keep fairly sophisticated records of how this total accumulates in the way of back support. So that's something that you can request from them. And once you've got that in hand, then you go back and look month to month and create your own argument of being able to say, I know that this is when daycare stopped. Now, ultimately, what you can do is you can request a conference board through the state, which is kind of like a hearing to address these issues. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing isn't so good, which is if part of your support order gave a dollar amount specific for daycare, the fact that support order exists and didn't get changed is a little bit problematic for you as well. All in all, I think you'll be okay with that conference board, though.
It smells like it's going to be okay. He was in the 10th grade. He wasn't in daycare, Your Honor. It smells like that's going to work out. Thanks there, Jason.
The next caller for Danny Bonaduce was special guest Rick Jones from Goldberg Jones. 1-800-DIVORCE is how to call them. But if you have a question about divorce, call now here to 800-252-1025. But that next caller is Rick in Puyallup.
Good morning, Rick. How are you?
Not bad. How are you guys?
We're all good. What can Rick Jones do for you?
All right. I have custody of my son. He's 14 years old, and he refuses to go with his mother. She picks him up after school on Thursdays and Fridays and has him every other weekend. Like I said, he refuses to go. What type of trouble could I get into if any?
Well, this is one of those where you've got to wait and see how it plays out. I mean, ultimately, you're right in terms of being a little bit concerned because as the custodial parent, there's an expectation that you're facilitating visitation, and obviously it's fairly easy for a 14-year-old to try and stretch their wings a little bit, which is what's going on. Is there anything that's ultimately concerning that he's refusing to go to? Is there any concern for the fear of his safety?
Yeah, well, I talked to Danny a few months ago. The guy that she's living with committed murder 1.
Ooh. I remember this cat, and I remember you, man.
Yes. And we went back to court over that one, and I got it set up where he cannot be left alone with this guy.
Yeah.
And anyway, my son refused to go. He doesn't like to go over there because of that. And also, I guess the house is just a complete disaster.
So is your question, if your kid actually refuses to go to his mother's, who has every other weekend constantly, that you're going to get in trouble if he won't go? Is that the question?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Well, what's your ex doing now? Is she complaining about it? Is she threatening to take you back to court for contempt?
She has not threatened, but she has called, and she's just a complete pain in the whatever.
That's a tough one, because imagine being in her shoes as well, which is if she does take the ultimate step, which is to file a contempt action against you and go to court, she's going to be there trying to explain to the court why the 14-year-old doesn't want to go with her. So this is one of those where, law says one thing, but reality kind of plays out in a different way. And at 14 years old, she should probably be more concerned about her ongoing relationship with him than with you.
And I would think her relationship with a murder 1 in the house. I think if she plays this out, if she takes that jump that Rick was talking about, I think if he doesn't want to go to the house where a woman lives with a murderer, you'll probably win this. That'd be my call, but I don't have a degree in pretty much anything. Thank you.
Life coach with special appearance by Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones. And the next caller is Donna in Olympia.
Morning, Donna.
Good morning.
What's up?
My daughter, long story short, her ex-husband has a court-ordered supervised visitation. His mother is a court-appointed person. Lately, she has not been, for the last several months, available to do the visitation. They've been going to court trying to change the parenting plan, and my daughter was served papers and in court yesterday that there's 9 counts of contempt of court against her for weekends that she did not take the kids. The judge recommended she gets an attorney. She doesn't have the money for an attorney. She doesn't get child support. She works 2 jobs just to keep a roof over the kids' heads. Does she really need an attorney for this? Because we can't prove any more than there's 6 text messages for the dates of the 9.
My question to you, is that a real question? Was it 9 citations for contempt?
That'd be like a record.
Yeah, you need a lawyer, I think. Rick Jones, what's up?
Well, if she's 0 for 9, that probably answers your own question, right?
Yes, it does. All right, well, that's the answer from Rick and I. You absolutely need to head down and get a lawyer on this. 9 citations for contempt is a very big deal. They could jail your daughter.
Thanks. Kyle and Lacey, you're the next caller on Danny Bonaduce Life Coach with special guest Rick Jones from Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE.
Hey, everybody, how's it going? My wife and I are just getting into the process of divorce here. We've each got an attorney. We're heading into mediation today, and we're working on our parenting plan, and our big bone of contention is that she wants sole custody of the children, and she's claiming that it would be a hardship on them to have to move back and forth from house to house. Now, I'm of the opinion that both parents need to be in the children's life, and I guess I would be willing to maybe go 60-40 on the custody, but 50-50 is really more where I'm heading. I was wondering if you had any advice for me on how to negotiate that, or...
Well, number one is to try and stand your ground. Ultimately, think about it this way, which is, what have you got to lose? You're in a mediation right now, so there's not a required settlement. Ultimately, if what she's offering is not okay with you, your last resort is court, meaning trial. You don't want to go to trial, certainly, but neither does she. So that's one thing to consider, which is to go ahead and stand your ground. Now, unfortunately, a lot of times the courts really aren't that cool with a 50-50 parenting plan because there is a lot of transition with the kids. And so it really kind of depends who you get as a trier of fact in terms of whether or not they have any, either favor or disfavor of some sort of an arrangement like that. The one other thing to consider is this. No doubt, money should never be an equation when it comes to parenting time, but at the same time, there may be a motivating factor on her side, which is if she gives you, quote unquote, any more time than an every other weekend sort of routine, then there's an expectation that child support in turn goes down because of that. So maybe there's a way to talk about child support in a vacuum and allow for more parenting time.
Hey, you ever had, and this has nothing to do with the answer, that's the best answer you're going to get from Rick Jones. I've heard something in this new age world that we live in. Ever hear of a custody house? Well, a custody house is the kids should live somewhere, right? So they live in a house. The parents come and go.
That's weird.
Yeah, they're like the parents.
Cool.
So the kids don't ever have to move and uproot their lives. I don't know if I'm for it, but it just entered my head and I thought I'd mention it because it makes me look fancy. The custody house.
Fancy.
You're so fancy.
You already know.
Karina in Bothell, you're on with Danny Bonaduce and Rick Jones from Goldberg Jones.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Love the idea of a custody house.
See, I knew that would work out for somebody.
Okay, so here's my question. Me and my soon-to-be ex-husband have our house emptied out. It's ready to be listed, ready to sell, and I'm totally ready to go. But he's holding back on it for a couple of reasons, and here are the facts. Only his name is on the mortgage loan. My name is not attached to it. But I have been starting to pay the mortgage since he moved out of the house as we get it ready for the sale. And now what he's requesting is that all the proceeds from our home sale, because we're going to make a little bit of money on it, go into a locked escrow account that won't be divided until our final decree, which I don't anticipate happening until at least a couple months. But I want to know, how do I motivate him to get going on the home sale, given that it's kind of the end of the summer? We want to, the market's looking really good. I want to get it sold. But I don't know if I can withhold mortgage payments or what my legal...
Yeah, because withholding sex is now out of the question. You wrecked that, and that worked for years.
Well, let's first try common sense and tell them the same thing you just told us, which is you think that this is the right time of year to get the house on sale, and ultimately what you're looking at is you're trying to maximize your share, which in turn is maximizing his share. So you've got mutual benefit in mind. That's step number one. Now, if that doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't, then your next step is to make sure that you've got a case filed, so you've got a case number, and the system is aware of you. You can then bring what's called a motion for temporary orders, requesting an ordered sale of the home. You may or may not be successful, but he's got really no reason to step up and fight you on it either.
Nice. Do you just walk around with all this stuff in your head all day long?
It's tough.
It's a lot of stuff, man. I'll tell you that. And by the way, Karina, you're absolutely right. Red hot real estate market right now. I tell you, he should get on board.
800-252-1025. That's the number to call for Danny Bonaduce, life coach, with special guest Rick Jones from Goldberg Jones, divorce specialist extraordinaire, as I like to call him. So Bill in Tacoma, you are the next caller.
What up, Bill?
Good morning.
Good morning, man.
I'm trying to find out at what point does a child have the choice? I heard about the murder one person, but if there's really, my kids, I have custody of my kids, and their mother just treats them really bad, and they don't want to go at all. They have visitation every week,
right,
or every weekend. And at what point do they have a choice? My daughter wants to get a job. She's almost 15, and she can't do that because she's got to go to her mother's.
When I was a kid, when I was 13, my mom and dad got a divorce, and I had heard, and now I've always believed, at 13, you get to make the call. If you're not an idiot and you could look at a judge and go, I want to stay with my mother, they'd probably let you. And then I have nothing to show me that that's actually true, not just something I heard.
Yeah, it is something you just heard.
It is something I heard.
There's a legal answer and then there's a real life answer. The legal answer is the first time that they actually get to make this type of choice is when they're 18.
Really? That's it?
I know, crazy.
When they could go live anywhere.
That's right. They're not even a child anymore.
Right.
Now, there's also the real life choice, like I referred to when we were talking about the 14-year-old earlier, which is they're getting to an age, especially when you're mobile, where it now becomes an issue between them and the mother. So if they sort of vote with their feet, if you know what I'm talking about there, then the real question is what recourse does she have? In theory, she could try and bring you in for contempt. But again, in her shoes, are you going to do that?
Right. So I would stay on top of it. See, we talked about the person getting 9 citations for contempt. Make sure the court doesn't hold you in contempt, because that's a drag and can haunt you.
It is a drag.
Cool. I believe we have time for like one more. Oh, now I have to.
We are out of
It's
time.
Bill in Tacoma on line 2.
That's who you were just talking to.
Oh, good. Then I'm done. Sorry about that. I saw his name and no, the guy was on hold. You know how I hate that. Hey, that's all the time we have right now for Danny Bonaduce, Life Coach, the special Rick Jones edition. Life Coach with a special appearance by Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones. And I would have to say this whole segment was brought to you by Goldberg Jones Divorce for Men. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.